The story begins in Cedar Falls, a quiet American suburb where lawns are trimmed, neighbors wave politely, and everyone seems to know each other's business. In one of those houses lived Robert Miller, a man in his late 50s who had spent 3 decades building a modest transportation company from scratch. Robert wasn't rich, but he was respected. He paid his bills on time, supported local charities, and was the kind of father who never missed a school play or soccer game when his daughter was young. To Robert, family meant everything. But in families, betrayal doesn't arrive with thunder. It comes quietly, through whispers, sideways glances, and small decisions that chip away at trust until the whole house cracks. Robert's mornings were steady and predictable. He'd wake up before dawn, pour himself a black coffee, and drive down to his small office on Main Street to check in with the drivers. He was a man of routine, a man who took pride in hard work. His wife Linda once shared that pride. But as years went by, her focus shifted. She wanted more. Bigger house, newer cars, vacations in Florida like her friends at the country club. Linda was always chasing an image. Their daughter, Emily, had grown into a smart and striking young woman of 24. Robert adored her. He had worked overtime shifts, skipped his own comforts, and put aside retirement savings just to fund her college education. He dreamed she'd find a good career, maybe marry a kind man, and carry forward the values he lived by. But somewhere between the glitter of campus life and the influence of Linda's social circle, Emily had started seeing her father differently. It began on a casual Saturday morning. Robert overheard Linda and Emily chatting in the kitchen. "Dad's too old-fashioned," Emily sighed. "Everyone at school drives something nice. And here I am, stuck borrowing your car. It's embarrassing." Linda poured her coffee and nodded. "You're right, honey. Your father doesn't understand how important it is to keep up appearances. He thinks hard work and honesty are enough in today's world." Robert stepped into the room, forcing a smile, but the words cut deep. He had saved for Emily's future, not flashy cars. But in their eyes, that sacrifice didn't count. 2 weeks later, Linda brought it up at dinner. "Robert, I've been thinking. Emily should have her own condo downtown, somewhere close to her friends and work opportunities. Why keep her tied to this old house?" Robert lowered his fork. "She's 24, Linda. She can stay here until she's married. And if she wants her own place, she can work for it like we did." Emily scoffed. "Work for it? Dad, do you know how long that would take? Everyone else my age already has their own place. Why can't you just sell one of your properties and help me out?" Robert's jaw tightened. "That's not how life works. I've spent years saving for your future, not to throw it away on keeping up with your friends." Emily rolled her eyes. Linda shot Robert a cold glare. The table felt like a battlefield. The tension exploded at a family barbecue. Neighbors gathered, laughter filled the yard, and Robert, wearing his old flannel shirt, flipped burgers on the grill. Emily stood with her cousins, whispering. Robert caught the words, though she didn't realize. "My dad still dresses like it's the 80s, she muttered, giggling. "It's embarrassing. Everyone else's dads look successful. Mine looks like a truck driver." Robert's heart sank. He pretended not to hear, but the shame burned hotter than the grill flames. Later, as he carried trays of food, he overheard Linda boasting to her sister about a plan to buy Emily a luxury condo downtown. Plans Robert had never agreed to. For the first time, Robert realized decisions were being made behind his back. His authority as husband and father was being quietly erased. Days grew colder inside the Miller house. Emily barely spoke to him unless she needed money. Linda criticized his every choice, from his clothes to his reluctance to upgrade their SUV. Still, Robert endured. He paid Emily's bills, funded Linda's shopping, and stayed silent. A father's heart absorbs pain like a sponge, hoping love will eventually soften rebellion. But Robert's instincts told him this wasn't just rebellion. Linda's hunger for wealth was no longer about comfort. It was about power. And Emily's complaints weren't just immaturity. They were seeds of contempt. One rainy night, Robert came home early. As he stepped onto the porch, he heard voices from the living room. He froze, staying outside the doorway. Linda whispered, "Don't worry, honey. Your father's too soft to stop us. He'll give in eventually. We'll sell one of his shares in the business, and you'll have your condo before summer." Emily replied sharply, "He's stubborn, Mom, but you're right. He's weak. We just need to push harder. This is our life, not his." The rain pounded on Robert's shoulders, but the storm inside his chest was louder. He stood there, drenched, listening to the two women he loved most dismiss him as if he were a useless obstacle. Robert didn't walk in. He didn't shout. He just stood in silence, heartbreaking, realizing for the first time that his family's loyalty was not his anymore. The seeds of betrayal had been planted. And though Robert said nothing that night, a storm of revenge was quietly forming within him. The weeks following that rainy night grew heavier in the Miller household. Robert walked around like a ghost in his own home. Every sound, the clinking of Linda's wine glass, the vibration of Emily's phone, felt like a reminder that he no longer belonged in his family's inner circle. And then came the moment when his daughter's quiet rebellion turned into open defiance. It was Emily's birthday. Robert had arranged something thoughtful. A pearl necklace he'd saved up for months to buy. To him, it was more than jewelry. It was a symbol of love, a family heirloom she could pass down someday. The party was small. A few relatives, Linda's friends from the country club, and Emily's college peers. When Robert handed her the small velvet box, Emily forced a smile and opened it in front of everyone. A hush fell over the room. "A necklace," she said, her voice flat. "It's beautiful," Robert said softly, trying to read her face. But Emily laughed awkwardly and turned to her friends. "It's sweet. But honestly, I thought it'd be car keys. Everyone else got cars at 21. Guess I'm the only one still stuck begging for rides." Her friends chuckled. Linda swooped in, wrapping an arm around Emily. "Don't worry, honey. We'll fix that soon. Some people just don't understand how important it is to keep up." She shot a pointed glance at Robert. Robert sat frozen, the necklace still in Emily's hand, burning his heart like an insult instead of a gift. For the first time, Emily had mocked him openly, reducing decades of sacrifice to a cheap joke in front of strangers. Later that night, after the guests left, Robert tried to confront Linda. "You've spoiled her, Linda. She doesn't respect me anymore. You're teaching her greed, not gratitude." Linda poured herself another glass of wine, unfazed. "You're the one stuck in the past, Robert. This isn't about greed. It's about giving Emily the life she deserves. Why should she suffer just because you're too proud to sell off a piece of the business?" Robert's voice cracked. "That business is my life. It's our future. Without it, we have nothing." Linda's eyes narrowed. "Correction, without it, you have nothing. Emily and I will be just fine. We'll find a way, with or without you." The words landed like bullets. For the first time, Robert realized Linda wasn't just pushing him. She was preparing to cut him out entirely. The breaking point arrived 2 weeks later. Emily stormed into Robert's office. her heels clicking sharply against the wooden floor. "Dad, we need to talk," she announced, arms crossed. Robert looked up from his paperwork. "What is it?" "I'm tired of waiting. Mom and I found a condo downtown. 2 bedrooms, modern kitchen, perfect location. I want it. All you have to do is sign off on selling one of your trucks or dipping into the retirement fund. It's not a big deal." Robert's pen froze in his hand. "Not a big deal. That retirement fund is for your mother and me when we're old. And those trucks feed the families of the men who drive them. Do you understand that?" Emily's face twisted in frustration. "I don't care about your trucks or your retirement. You've lived your life. It's my turn now. Why can't you just do this one thing for me?" Robert rose from his chair, his voice steady but firm. "Because, Emily, life doesn't hand out shortcuts. You earn what you get. I've given you everything, your education, your comfort, your security. But I won't sell my dignity just to keep up with your friends." Emily's cheeks burned red. She slammed her hand on the desk. "You're selfish. You pretend it's about dignity, but it's really about control. You want me trapped here forever. Well, I'm done asking politely." With that, she stormed out, slamming the door so hard the glass rattled in its frame. Not long after, Robert received an invitation to a neighborhood fundraiser. He attended out of habit, though he felt out of place. Halfway through the evening, he overheard laughter near the bar. It was Emily, surrounded by her friends, retelling the car keys story. "My dad thinks a necklace is enough," she joked, rolling her eyes. "It's like he's stuck in the Stone Age. Honestly, I can't wait until Mom takes charge of the finances. At least she understands me." The group laughed, raising their glasses. Robert stood in the corner, face pale. The humiliation wasn't private anymore. It was public. His own daughter was mocking him openly, siding with her mother, and painting him as a stubborn fool. That night, Robert drove home alone. The headlights blurred through his tears. He parked in the driveway, but he couldn't bring himself to step inside. He sat in the truck for over an hour, staring at the glow of the house where his wife and daughter laughed together without him. He thought of the years he spent missing vacations so Emily could go to summer camps. The nights he skipped dinners to work overtime. The times he patched up his old shoes so she could wear brand new ones. And now, he was nothing but an obstacle. For the first time in his life, Robert Miller felt truly defeated. The next morning, Emily made it official. She walked into the kitchen where Robert sat with his coffee. "Dad, I'm moving out. Mom's helping me get the condo. You don't have to like it, but you can't stop it. It's happening, with or without your support." Robert set down his cup slowly. His hands trembled, but his voice remained calm. "If that's what you want, Emily, then go. But remember this. You're choosing a lifestyle over your father. And choices always come with consequences." Emily smirked. "We'll see about that." Linda, standing in the doorway, placed a hand on Emily's shoulder. Together they walked out, leaving Robert alone at the table. The war lines were drawn. A father on one side, his wife and daughter on the other. And though Robert looked broken that morning, something had shifted inside him. He would endure the humiliation, but he would not forget it. The seeds of betrayal were no longer hidden. They had sprouted into open defiance. What Linda and Emily didn't know was that the storm they unleashed would one day turn back on them. The Miller home once stood as a symbol of stability in Cedar Falls. Neighbors admired Robert for his steady business, his reliability, and his devotion as a father. But beneath the polished exterior, cracks were spreading fast. By the time Emily moved into her new condo with Linda's help, Robert's world was already tilting toward collapse. One afternoon, Robert's longtime friend and attorney, Mark Davidson, came by his office with a concerned look. "Rob, I just got paperwork about your business," Mark said, sliding a folder across the desk. Robert frowned as he opened it. His breath caught in his chest. This is a release form for selling one of my trucks. But I never signed this." Mark hesitated. "Linda's signature is on it. Apparently, she presented herself as having authority on your behalf. The bank processed it." Robert's blood boiled. Linda had forged his consent, selling one of the company's key assets. When he confronted her that night, Linda didn't flinch. "Oh, don't act so dramatic. We needed the cash for Emily's down payment. One truck won't destroy your empire." Robert shouted for the first time in years. "That truck supported 3 families. You've crossed a line, Linda. You're tearing everything apart." But Linda just sipped her wine, unfazed. "Then maybe it's time you let someone smarter handle things." The betrayal didn't stop there. Slowly, Robert realized Linda and Emily were freezing him out of every decision. Bills were redirected. His name was taken off a joint account. Even Emily's condo paperwork listed Linda as guarantor, not him. Emily rarely came home except to grab things. When she did, she treated him like a guest. One evening, he overheard her on the phone, laughing with a friend. "My dad's so clueless. Mom and I basically run everything now. He just sits there with his coffee, pretending he's still in charge." The words broke him. He wasn't just being ignored, he was being ridiculed. The real collapse came when Robert's bank called. His company account had been drained of nearly $60,000. Emergency reserves he had built over decades. Gone. Panicked, Robert stormed into the house. "Linda, where's the money?" She looked at him coolly. "I moved it into a joint account with Emily. We needed to cover the condo, furniture, and her new car lease." Robert's voice cracked. "You stole from the company. From me. That money was for payroll. For keeping the business alive." Linda shrugged. "Your business is old news, Robert. Emily's future is what matters now. Maybe it's time you retired and let go." Robert staggered back as if struck. His own wife had sabotaged his livelihood in the name of their daughter's comfort. The fallout came swiftly. Employees quit when paychecks bounced. Neighbors whispered when they saw Emily driving a shiny new BMW while Robert's company trucks sat idle. At a local diner, Robert overheard 2 men at the next table talking. "Shame what's happening with Miller's business," one said. "Heard his wife and daughter bled him dry." The other chuckled. "Guess even the strongest man can be taken down by his own family." Robert lowered his coffee cup, hands trembling. The humiliation wasn't just in his home now. It was in the streets, in the community he had worked so hard to build respect in. The final blow came from where he least expected. Linda filed a petition for partial control of the business assets, claiming Robert was unfit to manage finances due to stress and age. Robert sat in court stunned, as her lawyer painted him as a stubborn old man resisting change, while Linda argued she only wanted to secure their daughter's future. Emily sat beside her mother, stone-faced, refusing to look at him. When the judge granted Linda temporary control of certain assets, Robert felt the world collapse around him. His trucks, his savings, his authority, all slipping from his grasp. That night, Robert returned to an empty house. Linda had moved temporarily into Emily's condo. The silence echoed in every room. He wandered into Emily's old bedroom. The posters were gone, the shelves bare. Only a photo frame remained on the dresser. A picture of little Emily on his shoulders at the county fair, cotton candy in her hands, laughter frozen in time. Robert sank onto the bed, clutching the photo. Tears streamed down his face. How had his little girl turned into this stranger who mocked and betrayed him? For the first time in his life, Robert whispered words he never thought he'd say. "I've lost them. I've lost everything." But deep inside something stirred. Robert wasn't a violent man. He wasn't even a vengeful man. But he was a father, and fathers don't go down without a fight. That night, as he stared into the darkness, he made a silent vow. He would not beg. He would not collapse. He would wait. And when the time was right, karma would do what it always does. Strike back harder than any man could plan. For now, though, Robert Miller had fallen, and the world believed he was finished, the storm outside mirrored the storm inside Daniel's heart. He sat in his study late at night, the glow of his desk lamp casting shadows across the walls. The whiskey glass trembled slightly in his hand, though not from drink, but from the weight of betrayal. His daughter, the one he raised with such pride, had chosen greed over family. His wife, his lifelong companion, now whispered in closed rooms with Madison as though plotting against him. The two women he loved most were slipping through his fingers. Daniel had always pictured his family dinners as sacred. For 20 years, that oak dining table was their place of unity. Now the air was heavy with silence. Sarah no longer looked him in the eye. Madison, when she did show up, carried herself with the arrogance of a businesswoman who had already taken her father's throne. But the worst wound was Anna's empty chair. She had left after the fight with her mother, refusing to return. That absence cut deeper than any insult. Daniel longed to hear her voice, to tell her he was sorry, but pride chained his tongue. His empire was collapsing, and his family was at the center of it. The next morning, Daniel arrived at his office to find whispers floating through the halls. His employees avoided eye contact, their conversations dying when he walked past. Something was wrong. He stormed into the boardroom only to find Madison already seated at the head of the table. Around her sat 3 of his most trusted executives, men Daniel had mentored, who now turned their loyalty to her. "Father," Madison said coolly, her manicured fingers tapping the mahogany table, "you've done enough damage. Investors are nervous. They need someone with vision. Someone who understands the future." "You mean someone willing to sell our legacy for a quick profit?" Daniel shot back, his voice sharp. The board shuffled papers uncomfortably. Madison didn't flinch. "I've secured new investors. They trust me. The vote will decide." Daniel felt the walls closing in. Betrayed not only by his daughter but by the men he had lifted from nothing. The vote was swift and merciless. By the end of the hour, Daniel Reynolds, founder of Reynolds Properties, was stripped of his power. News traveled fast. Within hours, headlines read, "Reynolds ousted by own daughter." Television anchors smirked as they replayed clips of Madison walking confidently out of the boardroom, while Daniel trailed behind, a shadow of his former self. At home, Sarah confronted him. "You pushed her too hard," she accused, bitterness dripping from her words. "You treated her like she was never enough. Well, she proved she doesn't need you." Her words struck like a dagger. Was she right? Or was she blinded by her own ambition? Daniel retreated to his study, staring at the portrait of his family taken years ago. Back then, Anna had her arms around Madison's shoulders. Sarah stood by his side, and they all wore smiles. That photograph mocked him now. As the walls of his life collapsed, Daniel received an unexpected visitor. Anna returned quietly one night, slipping into the study while Sarah slept upstairs. "Dad," she whispered, her eyes full of pain. "I'm sorry I left. I couldn't take it anymore. But seeing the news, I had to come back." Daniel's eyes softened, his pride cracking at last. "Anna, you're the only one who hasn't betrayed me." She took his hand, steady and warm. "Then let me stand by you. You're not done yet, Dad. Madison thinks she's won, but karma doesn't forget. We'll fight back. Together." For the first time in weeks, Daniel felt a spark of hope. The world thought the father was finished, but Anna's return gave him strength. If Madison wanted war, Daniel would rise from the ashes and show her that betrayal carries a price. The storm outside raged on, but inside, the fire of revenge was only beginning to burn. The world believed Daniel Reynolds was finished. Stripped of his company, mocked in the media, betrayed by his wife and daughter. He looked like just another fallen tycoon swallowed by greed and family politics. But beneath the humiliation, something was stirring. Daniel was not a man who built an empire by chance. He knew the streets, the numbers, and most importantly, the flaws of those who betrayed him. And now, with Anna standing by his side, he began to plot, not with anger alone but with patience. The kind of patience that makes revenge feel like justice. Anna became his anchor. Every evening after work, she came to his study with takeout boxes. Pizza, Chinese noodles, even old diner burgers that reminded Daniel of the days before his wealth. They would eat together, sometimes in silence, sometimes in bursts of laughter that cut through the darkness. One night, Anna leaned forward, determination in her eyes. "Dad, Madison may have taken the company, but you still own the truth. You know her weaknesses, her secrets. Let's use them." Daniel nodded slowly. For years, he had overlooked Madison's shortcuts, her hunger for recognition, her shady deals. Out of love, he had protected her. Out of loyalty, he had ignored the warning signs. But now, those same secrets would become the weapons of his revenge. Daniel began quietly. No lawsuits, no public appearances. Instead, he started meeting old contacts, construction foremen, city inspectors, bankers who owed him favors. Anna documented everything, compiling files and evidence like a soldier preparing for battle. Within weeks, Daniel uncovered Madison's dirty trail. Bribed officials, rushed safety inspections, unpaid contractors. She had inherited his empire, but she was poisoning it from the inside out. Anna grinned when she read the reports. She thinks she's invincible, but she's building her castle on sand. Daniel's eyes hardened. "And when the storm comes, it'll all sink. Let's make sure the world is watching." The first domino fell when one of Madison's rushed luxury towers failed a safety check. News broke that cracks were found in the concrete foundation. Investors panicked. Madison appeared on TV, insisting everything was under control, but her polished smile couldn't hide the sweat on her forehead. Daniel and Anna watched the broadcast from the living room. "Looks like she inherited your stubbornness, Dad," Anna joked. Daniel chuckled bitterly. Stubbornness without wisdom is a curse. While Madison battled investors, Sarah's mask began to crack. She had sided with Madison for power, but Madison no longer needed her. Arguments erupted in their mansion, loud enough for staff to overhear and gossip about. One night, Sarah came to Daniel, tears in her eyes. "I was wrong," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Madison, she doesn't respect me. She uses me. I thought standing with her would make me powerful, but all I did was destroy us." Daniel looked at her with cold eyes. "You chose her over me. You let greed blind you. Now you want forgiveness. Sarah dropped to her knees. Daniel, please. I still love you. But he turned away. For the first time in his life, Daniel felt nothing for the woman he had once cherished. Betrayal had burned that bridge to ash. With Sarah out of the picture, Daniel and Anna prepared their final move. They knew Madison's ego would drive her straight into the trap. Anna devised the plan. Leak just enough information to make Madison believe a new deal was about to secure her power forever, a billion-dollar project in partnership with international investors. But those investors were actually Daniel's old friends playing along. At a lavish gala in Manhattan, Madison signed the deal, cameras flashing. She believed she had silenced her critics. But the very next morning, headlines exploded. Reynolds' empire faces federal investigation. Fraud allegations surface. The evidence Daniel and Anna had gathered now poured into the hands of regulators, journalists, and furious investors. Madison's empire began to crumble overnight. When Madison confronted Daniel, her face pale and eyes wild with rage, he stood calm. His figure strong, almost regal. You did this, she spat. You ruined me. Daniel's voice was steady, like a judge delivering a verdict. No, Madison. You ruined yourself. I gave you everything, my name, my legacy, my trust. And you chose betrayal. Karma doesn't forget, and neither do I. Madison collapsed into a chair, shaking. For the first time, she looked not like the powerful businesswoman she wanted the world to see, but like a lost child. His lost child. Daniel turned and walked away, Anna at his side. His revenge was complete, but in his heart, the wound of betrayal would never fully heal. Yet as father and loyal daughter stepped into the night air, Anna touched his arm gently. Dad, you did what you had to do. But maybe, just maybe, Madison can still learn. Maybe this is her punishment, and her chance to change. Daniel gazed at her, the anger in his heart softening. He had won the war, but the battle for his family's soul wasn't over. Revenge had given him justice, but only forgiveness could give him peace. And in that moment, Daniel realized the final act was not about destroying Madison. It was about making sure karma delivered the lesson she could never escape. The city skyline glittered like diamonds against the night, but for Madison Reynolds, the lights had never looked dimmer. Once hailed as the youngest female mogul to rise on Wall Street, she now stood at the center of scandal. Federal investigators circled like vultures. Investors demanded refunds. Her name, once on the cover of Forbes, was now plastered across tabloids. Reynolds' legacy in ruins, betrayal within the family. And behind every headline was the truth. Karma had caught up. The trial was brutal. Evidence piled high. Falsified reports, bribed inspectors, financial manipulations. Madison tried to keep her composure. Her high-priced lawyers spinning narratives about misunderstandings and ambitious oversight. But the jury didn't buy it. Daniel sat in the gallery, not gloating, not smirking, just watching. His presence was enough. Madison's eyes met his once, and for the first time, she saw not just her father, but her executioner. When the judge pronounced the verdict, guilty on multiple counts of fraud and corporate misconduct, a hush fell across the room. Madison lowered her head, her empire gone, her reputation shattered. Sarah, broken and hollow, sat at home watching the news coverage. She had lost everything, her marriage, her social standing, even the daughter she thought would give her power. Alone in their once glorious mansion, she wandered through empty rooms like a ghost. A neighbor later recalled seeing her sitting on the porch for hours, staring into nothing. For Sarah, karma had not just taken wealth, It had stolen the illusion of control. For Daniel, victory wasn't sweet, it was heavy. Standing outside the courthouse, Anna by his side, reporters swarmed him with questions. "Mr. Reynolds, how does it feel to see your daughter fall?" Daniel paused, his jaw tight. Then, in a low, measured tone, he said, "It doesn't feel like victory. Feels like justice. Betrayal destroys families. And when you forget loyalty, you lose everything. This is not about revenge. It's about consequences." The clip went viral, not because of anger, but because of the gravity in his voice. A father betrayed, yet standing strong. In prison, Madison faced silence. No assistance, no press, no investors to applaud her ambition. Just time. Time to reflect. Time to understand what her greed had cost her. One day, Anna visited her. "Why are you here?" Madison asked bitterly. "Because you're still my sister," Anna replied, her voice steady. "You hurt Dad. You hurt me. But maybe one day, you'll understand that love isn't weakness. It's the only real wealth." Madison said nothing, but for the first time, tears slid down her face. Months later, Daniel and Anna moved to a quiet home by the coast. Not a mansion, not a skyscraper view. Just a simple house with the sound of waves crashing against the shore. For once, peace wasn't tied to business meetings or stock prices. One evening, sitting on the porch, Daniel watched the sunset bleed across the sky. Anna sat beside him, leaning on his shoulder. "You did it, Dad," she whispered. "You got justice." Daniel exhaled slowly. "No, Anna. Karma did it. I just stepped aside and let it finish the job." And in that moment, for the first time since the storm began, Daniel Reynolds smiled. Not as a businessman, not as a betrayed husband, but as a father who had finally found peace. In the end, betrayal burns brighter than any fire, but karma always waits for its time. Daniel Reynolds lost his empire, but gained something far greater: the truth. His daughter's greed became her downfall. His wife's ambition turned to ash, and his loyalty to family was repaid through Anna's love. In this war of blood and betrayal, karma's final blow left only one lesson: no empire can survive when it's built on betrayal.